So in our time together, here's what we're going to take a look at. We're going to create a screencast lesson. And what are some of the best practices around this? And so we'll talk about the actual technical steps to complete this. We will talk about some good strategies and why we might do this. And then, like I said, we will actually do some practice. Now, just for reference, this particular Lunch and Learn in our time together is really an introductory Lunch and Learn. We're not talking about intermediate or advanced steps. It very much is an introductory. But I will also say that this skill that you learn with creating a screencast can be used for all content areas, all of them, and all grade levels. Okay, and here's why. Why does it do that? I put in new slides. Whatever, we'll run with it. Okay, so I want you to, and I've mentioned this before to other colleagues of mine, and certainly in other Lunch and Learns that I have done, but I want you to just kind of imagine your classroom for a second. I want you to remember all the things that you provided to your kiddos when you were providing instruction to them. So they had posters on the wall, they had visual prompts, things that they could read, they had their buddy to elbow as a, what did she say? What do I have to do again? They had you to ask, and you could direct them, you could answer questions, you could provide information. So they had a learning focused environment, they had a schedule. All of these pieces of scaffolding and feedback to help inform the learning environment. And now that's been removed. And so as much as we want to make sure that our kids are accessing all of the curriculum that we have been instructed to teach, we have to remember that all the pieces that were also in play to help them access curriculum have been either changed or removed. They don't have their buddy to elbow right beside them. They don't have an actual focused learning environment, much like you had. They don't have your voice. They can't connect with you in the same way that they did. And so that we need to remember that just because the curriculum is the same, the context is clearly not. And so we want to make adjustments to the way that we are providing curriculum so that they can still be successful. Okay. And as much as we just want to continue with some of the same strategies that we have used in the past, again, we ourselves are struggling. I miss seeing faces, and our kiddos are in the same boat. It is hard for them. So I'm gonna, as we kind of work through this, I want you to remember that as much as possible, we have to make some adjustments so that our kiddos can be successful and still feel connected. And so that is why we're talking Screencastify. It is not just about a tool. It is about how do we still make our kids feel connected to us and to each other and also to content. So what we're going to do in our time together is we are going to talk about just some background information around asynchronous learning. What is that? We will specifically talk about and practice using Screencastify, and then I will identify some really good and research-based practices when we are creating screencasts. Okay. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the box. Now, asynchronous learning, it's a super fancy word. Basically, it is any time that there's learning that is happening where a teacher is providing content, student is receiving content, but the time is not in sync. It's not happening at the same time. So in your classroom, you were standing there, they were sitting there or standing or whatever, and you were delivering and they were receiving in the same time. Asynchronous learning is when you are still providing content, they are receiving it. However, it's not happening in the same time. It's not in sync. It is out of sync. You might be providing it and they are accessing it at a different time. That is asynchronous learning. In the classroom, this was not ideal because we are there and they are there and we are all there at the same time, so the learning can happen at the same time. However, now, because the conditions are different, synchronous learning is very, very difficult. And here is why. We might attempt to deliver the learning at the same time. So we could even say our office hours are this. I'm going to deliver instruction through Google Meet at this time. I'm going to provide information around this at this time. However, we don't know what the access is like at home for a device. So there might be 3 and 4 kids trying to use the same device. And we also don't know what their network access is like. So in some of our rural families, the network access is spotty and tricky. We also know that because it can be tricky, the bandwidth pull is very difficult. So we need to be flexible at the time, but still in such a way where we are available and providing our faces, instruction, learning, and all of that, and connection. So the synchronous, there is the chance that the kids will miss. And if they miss any synchronous learning where I'm going to be available on Google Meet at this time, then there's very little chance for them to catch that again. So asynchronous, out of sync in terms of time. However, even from a differentiation strategy, it's actually really good because the kids can re-look at things over and over and over again as they need to. Okay. So what we're going to do with asynchronous learning, and in particular Screencastify, is Screencastify helps, or any screencast tool really, but Screencastify will help us to create the illusion of instruction as it would be in the classroom. We can still provide content. They can still see our face. They can still hear us. We can still speak to what they need to know, questions that they need to answer, and instructions, but they can do it at a time that suits them and at a time when it's possible, either because the Wi-Fi is better or because they have access to a device. Okay? So that being said, I'm going to abandon ship from these slides for a moment, and I'm going to walk you through some things. If you are in the slides, you will notice that there are some links that are here. This icon here is also linked, and if you click on it, it takes you to the Chrome Web Store. Screencastify is an extension. In other words, it is an application that runs over top of your browser, and you will notice that any extension that you install will show up at the top of your Google browser, right beside that URL bar or Omnibox, okay? If your button here, when you click on that link, if that button says add to Chrome, you would simply click on add to Chrome, and after just a quick authentication process, that little icon will appear at the top of your browser bar. So mine is right here. If you already have added it and installed it, you should see that extension again right at the top, and it will say remove from Chrome. Okay. Now, when you click on it the first time, it will likely ask you a series of permissions because it's just connecting you with your Google EDU account. And so you'll just have to click through those permissions to give it access. All right. Now, I'm going to go back to these slides for a second. You will notice that now when I click on that, now I've gone through the permissions, I am launching Screencastify as a tool. You will notice that exactly what you see here are the two screens that I've got here. There are 3 different ways that you can add or that you can screencast. So there are 3 different screens that you can record. The first is the browser tab. And so that is, if you click on browser tab, it is only going to record this tab that I am in currently. If you leave the tab, it will not record where you go. It will only stay with that static view of that tab. To be honest, I use this one very minimally because I find I actually don't stay in one place for too long. So it is available. If you want to stay local to that one tab and you know that that's all you need, then it's easy. If, however, you want a little bit more freedom and flexibility because you might need to flip between tabs or between views or windows, then if you click on desktop, then it will record your entire desktop screen. Okay. And then webcam is if you only want you, just the image of you. So webcam is really good if you are just creating a quick video to connect with your kids. It could be a daily, it could be weekly. Hi, how's it going? What are you guys up to today? Here's a funny video I made for you, or here's my joke of the day. But anyway, when all you need is just you, then just use the webcam and it'll record your computer, like just the view of you. Okay. I will say, and just as an added note, although we'll talk about this with best, like just good practices at the end, what our kids are missing most is people. And I am missing people. And so the more often that you create just quick, short snippets of you with your face, with your voice, the more that they will still be connected to you and thus motivated to do the work and the learning that you have for them. If you create a barrier where they can't see you and they can't hear you, then that motivation factor diminishes because they don't feel that anybody cares about them. They're not seeing them, they're just getting work. So I would just kind of suggest that as much as possible, make yourself visible to them because they are feeling like we are feeling, disconnected. They are feeling that they miss people. And so any way to still stay connected, even if visually, this is important. Okay, so just a sidebar, make sure you use your webcam. The desktop, like I said, is what I use most. I want to make sure that my microphone is on, and I have chosen to embed the webcam because, again, I want them to still see my face. I still want them to feel that they are connected. There are some additional options when I click on it, and you can see that there's a countdown until the recording starts. There are drawing tools that you can use, and then there's a few other ones that you can toggle on, okay? When you are ready, you simply click record, okay? Now, when I click, now, I'm not sure what this is going to do. It might get a little funny because I've got a record with a Google Meet and I'm going to go record with Screencastify. So let's see what happens. Okay. So I'm going to click record, and what it's going to ask for, and I'm going to pull this over. Oh, are you going to let me pull you over? You're not. It's going to ask for, let's do a quick screenshot so you can see. It's going to ask for you to identify which screen it is you want. So I just did a quick screenshot. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so I did just a quick screenshot of what you can see. And so it asks, share your screen. It wants to share which contents. Now I've got two screens going, and so I would then select, this is the one that I want to screencast. Now the button, the share at the bottom is grayed out. You won't actually be able to click on share to start the screencast until you've identified the window. So even if there's only one window, you have to click on it to select it, and then you'll be able to click the share button. All right. Once you've done that, it may give you a countdown. It may give you a countdown depending on whether that's what you've selected. And then you can just kind of proceed as normal. You deliver your lesson how you would, you create your message as you would. And when you are done, you just click at the top again, and it will give you the option to stop. All right. So I'm going to give you a second to make sure that you have both added Screencastify to your account, and you now see it on your browser, and B, that what I want you to try is to go ahead, and even if it's 5 seconds, I want you to click on that Screencastify extension, record something, it doesn't matter what, and then when it's done and you've stopped it, you will notice it goes into a different tab and a different screen, but when you've stopped it, give me an okay in the chat box. So I'm gonna just hold there for a moment. Okay, I'll keep going because I want to just honor the time that you were sharing. So you would have noticed that when you press stop to finish your screen recording, that this tab would have opened up, okay? And so what this is Screencastify's essentially viewer of your video that you just created. You can, and from here, you'll notice a few things. I'm going to take you through the side and then kind of the top and the bottom. So the first thing that you'll notice on the side is where it can go. Where does the video go after you've created it? And so I'll show you, it is automatically stored in your Google Drive. You don't have to put it anywhere. It is automatically stored in Google Drive. And so if you pop into your Google Drive, you will notice that there is a folder created called Screencastify, and then anything you ever make with Screencastify is loaded here. Okay. Now you can certainly move it, relocate it, but to find it, it will always be put into that Screencastify folder. Okay. I'm going to go back here. Once it's in Google Drive, you have a couple of options in terms of what to do with it. You can copy, because you want to put it somewhere, right? Clearly, you've created the screencast to share it and do something with it. So option number one is you can copy the shareable link, and you can take that shareable link and do what you need to do with it by the link. The other option is that you can publish this video to a YouTube channel. Now, at one point, Google bought YouTube. And so because each person in Sturgeon Public Schools has a G Suite account, you also have access to the YouTube app. So you can create your own, you already have your own YouTube channel, and you can start uploading videos to your own channel. You don't have to, but know that it is already there. Kids understand it, they know where to go. And so that can also be a place where you post it. Okay. You can share it directly to Classroom. I've used this very minimally, only because I often just want to do something with my video before I just send it on to kids. But I can see that this is, if it's just like a check-in, how are you guys doing? Here's a joke for the day. Then it could just be a quick share to Classroom and off you go. If I were to click on that, then it'll open up a window, identify the class, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then the other options, if I click more options, you can send in an email, you can generate a QR code, but to be honest, I found I'm using the copy shareable link most frequently and the publish to YouTube most frequently. Okay. The other option is, if you need to, you can also download the video. So if you're going to do some video editing with it, there's other things that you need to do with it, then you can download it and have the video file on your computer. But because it's in Google Drive, again, you just might be doing something else with it. All right. Across the bottom, here's where you kind of have those playback tools. You can click on play to look at it. You can even, super simple editing is I can take my scissors and I can trim the front or the end of it and then click save trim. I'm going to go cancel. I can rename it really easily, and just very much like we know of Google tools, renaming it will automatically save. And then there are some additional options here. that you can play with, but to be honest, I just find that the default options that I have access to are enough. Oh, and it's now, okay, let's stop that. There is an editor, and I can click on the editor to access it. It does require the extended version of Screencastify, which you, I believe, have access to because of COVID, and I will share the information with you at the end. But again, I don't use the editor. I rarely use anything over and above this because I have found that this is enough. Okay. So that is, in a nutshell, how to create the video. Now, if I go back to my slides real quick, again, that's the screen that we saw. And now what? What do we do with it when we're done? And here's a couple of options. So, did you know in Google Slides that you can pull in video to a Google slide? So you could create a series of Google Slides that the slide deck is your lesson from beginning to end. And each slide has different content or different activity or different information on it. You could pull a video into one slide that the kids need to watch. Okay. You can pull a video into Google Classroom. Okay, you can post it from there. You can add it as just an attachment, right? Like as it as material. And let me just pop in there real quick so I can click create an assignment or material. It doesn't matter depending on what I'm going to use it for. And when I go add, I can either add the link, so the Google Drive link, or I can add the YouTube link if I've posted it to YouTube. Okay. Or I can even go to Google Drive and pull it in that way too. So there's the 3 out of the 4 will work very well. The other option is you can also, if you have a series of instructions for kids in a Google Doc, you can put the link to the video right in the Google Doc and then they can click on it to view it. That's another option. You're creating a Google form. So Paula, you had talked about wanting to read to your kids with a video. You can actually pull a video into a Google form. And then you can have a couple of comprehension questions for them to answer afterwards. So you can also do that. What else was I going to add? You can, I'm just thinking through some of the other options. You can, I think that's all of them. That's most of them. See, you guys are in that slide, but I can't show it to you because I've got 2 going. So just know that you've got a bunch of options in terms of what you can do with it. And really, the hard part is just making it. Okay? So here are some good practices. I know you guys are asking, well, can we make really long videos? And yes, you can. But I will challenge you for a moment. If you had to learn something new, like how to fix your fridge, and there are 2 videos, a 5-minute one or a 25-minute one, and both will at the very least kind of get you to the same point. Which one do you want to watch? 5-minute. Research is suggesting that videos, any video that somebody watches, that viewership drops after 5 to 6 minutes. So, can you create longer ones? Yes, you can. Does that guarantee that the kids are going to watch to the end? No, it does not. So I would actually suggest, despite that you can have access to longer videos, I would encourage you to create short snippets. And then you can still have the same content, but just break it up into smaller chunks, because then at least there is a better chance of the kids staying engaged and watching kind of each chunk, as opposed to taking a look and saying, oh, this is 25 minutes, I have to watch all 25. Okay, so keep it short. If you can aim for between 4 and 6 minutes, that is best. Go slow. I am guilty of this one. Talk slower than you think you need to. If you talk too fast, it is, again, there's research saying that when the person is behind a screen, that it is actually harder to both have that input into the brain and then to compute it is actually more difficult, and it's a different skill. And so by talking slower, it gives those that are watching a better chance of understanding, comprehending, and making sense of the input. Provide verbal cues. So if you want the kids to, if you're providing instruction around a particular area of content, then actually suggest to them, if you don't understand, press stop and go back and rewatch. Or press, I want you to think about this question in your head. So press pause after I give you this question. So you're actually prompting them, just like you would prompt them in class. You continue to prompt them in the video, because especially our younger ones, they won't have that skill to know, oh, I should actually stop this right now because I don't know what, I don't know. I don't know that I should stop this right now. So the more that you can prompt them, and then again, we just want to be mindful of UDL, so that we're giving multiple ways for kids to access content. You're speaking it to them, you're giving it visually, and on the flip side, you know, you can communicate expectation for them, and you're just, it's that illusion that you are there instructing them, but you're actually not. But because you're not, they can go back and rewatch it, right? They can kind of loop back. So there is a screencast that I made. It is posted to the YouTube channel that we have called Creating Effective Instructional Videos. And it has a bunch of strategies and suggestions around here are the things to do and not do when you are creating these instructional videos. So some of the important ones I've highlighted here, but if you want more information, you can take a look at that. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of different websites for you, and then we'll open it up and answer some of your questions. The Continuing Learning website created by our Education Services team has a number of resources on here. So if you haven't been here yet, please feel free to access it. There is a section for teachers, parents, and students. If you want to, there is a video created for students on how to participate in the Google Meet and have appropriate etiquette. But there's a whole section under teachers where, again, there's videos created, here's some how-to guides, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I wanted to show you that one. If you click here, this is the YouTube channel with all the videos that and screencasts that have been made thus far. And so if at any point you need more tutorial around something, that you can access them here. And then the ARPDC, so kind of the big umbrella of ERLC, they have assembled a number of resources as well, and just some good practices.